Have you ever wondered why Africa, a continent blessed with vast natural resources, grapples with acute scarcity of water, food, and economic stability? Welcome to the paradox of plenty, a conundrum that continues to confound the world. Africa, a land of immense beauty and diversity, boasts an abundance of natural resources. It's a continent teeming with wildlife, fertile lands, and valuable minerals. Yet despite this wealth, many of its people are ensnared in a cycle of poverty, hunger, and instability. Let's examine this paradox in more detail, starting with water scarcity. Africa, with its great rivers and vast lakes, might seem an unlikely place for water shortage. But the reality is quite different. Many regions suffer from lack of access to clean, safe water, a basic necessity for survival and development. Next, we have food insecurity. Africa's fertile lands should, theoretically, yield enough food to feed its populace. But the reality presents a stark contrast. Many African nations grapple with chronic food shortages, malnutrition, and famine, a crisis that has persisted for decades. The economic instability, the third piece of the puzzle, is just as perplexing. Africa is home to an impressive array of natural resources, including precious metals, oil, and diamonds. Yet it remains one of the world's poorest continents. Economic instability, marked by high unemployment rates and low incomes, is a common feature across many African nations. These issues, while seemingly separate, are deeply interconnected. They feed into each other, creating a cycle that perpetuates the paradox of plenty. The lack of clean water leads to poor sanitation and disease, impacting food production and economic productivity. Food insecurity in turn exacerbates economic instability, and the cycle continues. But this isn't the complete picture. There are complex factors and underlying issues that contribute to these problems and their persistence, and it's these factors that we'll explore in the rest of this video. So what factors contribute to these paradoxical problems? Let's delve deeper. Water, the essence of life, is alarmingly scarce in Africa. But how dire is the situation? To answer this question, we need to delve into the sobering realities of water scarcity on this vast continent. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle with over 700 million pieces, each representing a person living without access to clean water. This is the reality for more than half of Africa's population. A lack of clean water has severe consequences for health, leading to waterborne diseases such as cholera and typhoid fever. Every year, hundreds of thousands of lives are lost due to these diseases, with children being the most vulnerable. But the water crisis doesn't stop at health. It's also a significant barrier to socio-economic development. Agriculture, which employs over 60% of Africa's workforce, is heavily dependent on reliable water sources. However, irregular rainfall patterns and prolonged droughts have made farming a risky business, pushing many people into a cycle of poverty. Moreover, water scarcity exacerbates gender inequality. In many African societies, it's the women and girls who bear the burden of water collection. This time-consuming task often prevents them from attending school or engaging in income-generating activities, further widening the gender gap. The situation is indeed dire, but what's causing this water crisis? It's a complex interplay of natural and human factors. Africa's diverse climate, characterized by arid regions and erratic rainfall, is a significant contributor. However, human activities such as deforestation and poor water management practices have compounded the problem, leading to water shortages even in areas with adequate rainfall. Addressing the water crisis in Africa requires a multifaceted approach. It starts with improved water management, investing in infrastructure to harvest and store rainwater, and promoting sustainable farming practices. Education is also crucial, not only to teach communities about water conservation, but also to challenge the gender norms that place the burden of water collection on women and girls. The water crisis in Africa is indeed a pressing issue, but it's not the only one. Let's shift our focus to another vital necessity: food. Hunger is another ghost that haunts a significant number of Africans. But how widespread is this issue? Dive into the heart of Africa, and you'll find that many of its people are locked in a constant battle with food insecurity. To put things into perspective, imagine a nation the size of Germany. Now picture every single one of its citizens going to bed hungry. That's the reality for over 80 million individuals across Africa. But what exactly fuels this food shortage? Well, it's a bit of a vicious cycle. Infertile soil and unpredictable weather patterns lead to poor harvests. Then, the lack of nutritious food weakens the population, making them more susceptible to diseases and less able to perform the hard labor necessary for farming. It's a loop that's hard to break. Indeed, climate change is a significant culprit. intensifying droughts and floods, and making it even more challenging to grow crops. Conflict and political instability have also played their part, disrupting farming activities and causing food prices to skyrocket. Moreover, the impact of food insecurity goes beyond just hunger. Chronic undernourishment can lead to malnutrition, which affects individuals' health and well-being. It can stunt children's growth, weaken immune systems, and even impair cognitive development. This can have long-lasting effects, perpetuating a cycle of poverty and deprivation that's hard to escape. Of course, this isn't the whole picture. There are regions where progress is being made, where innovative farming techniques and sustainable practices are starting to bear fruit. But for many, the struggle continues. Food insecurity is not just a statistic, it's a daily reality for millions of Africans. It's an issue that demands our attention, our empathy, and our action. It's a problem that can't be ignored, but it's also one that can be tackled. With concerted effort, there's hope that the specter of hunger can be banished. Food and water are basic human rights, yet they remain elusive for many Africans. But what about their economic stability? Let's explore. Economic instability in Africa is a complex issue that affects millions. But what does this instability look like? Well, let's paint a picture. Imagine a wealth scale with the richest people at the top and the poorest at the bottom. In an ideal world, this scale would be a smooth curve, but in Africa it's more like a cliff. The richest few live in opulence while the vast majority struggle to make ends meet. This is called income inequality, and it's a major driver of economic instability. Let's talk numbers for a moment. The GDP per capita, or the average income of a person in a year, is often used as an indicator of a country's standard of living. In Africa, this number is alarmingly low. For instance, in Burundi, one of the poorest countries in the world, the GDP per capita is less than $300. That's less than $1 a day. But the story doesn't end there. High unemployment rates are another critical issue. Many Africans, particularly the youth, are unable to find stable, well-paying jobs. This not only leads to a sense of hopelessness among the populace, but also stunts economic growth. These economic issues have a cascading effect on the overall quality of life. Poor income means less access to basic necessities like clean water, nutritious food, and healthcare. It's a vicious cycle, poverty leading to economic instability, which in turn exacerbates poverty. So why is Africa stuck in this cycle? The reasons are many, from a history of colonial exploitation, corruption, poor governance, to inadequate investment in education and infrastructure. But it's not all doom and gloom. Across the continent, there are glimmers of hope. Many African nations are experiencing rapid economic growth. Innovative solutions are being implemented to tackle income inequality and unemployment. But the road to economic stability is long and fraught with challenges. Economic instability, along with water scarcity and food insecurity, paints a grim picture of Africa. But is there a way forward? Let's conclude with a ray of hope. Despite the challenges, Africa holds an immense potential for growth and development. But how could this be achieved? Africa is a continent teeming with potential. It has vast natural resources, a youthful population, and a rich cultural heritage, yet it faces some formidable challenges. The good news is, there are ways forward that could help to transform the continent into a hub of prosperity. Firstly, sustainable development is key. This involves balancing economic growth with environmental protection to ensure that the needs of today's generation are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Africa could harness its abundant renewable energy resources such as solar and wind to power its growth while mitigating the impacts of climate change. Secondly, international aid plays a crucial role. But this aid must be targeted, strategic, and designed to empower rather than create dependency. For instance, investments in education and health can create a virtuous cycle of development, breaking the cycle of poverty and setting the stage for long-term economic growth. Improved governance is another crucial element. This means strengthening institutions, promoting transparency, and fighting corruption. When governance is strong, resources are used efficiently, policies are implemented effectively, and the rights of citizens are protected. Finally, technological advancements in water and food production could be game changers. Innovation in desalination technology could help to address the water crisis, while advances in agricultural technology could boost food production and improve food security. Each of these solutions requires effort, commitment, and collaboration. It involves governments, international organizations, civil society, and individuals working together towards a common goal. It's not an easy task, but it's an achievable one. The road to a prosperous Africa might be long and fraught with challenges, but with concerted efforts and sustainable solutions, a better future is within reach. Let's not forget, progress is a journey and every step forward counts. Let's walk this journey together for a better, more prosperous Africa.